Welcome to the Wow Effect. This is where 6 and 7-figure women share the raw, unfiltered stories of how they built their empires. I'm your host, Mallory Steele. The room is ready. Let's get into it.
Okay. Ilona, welcome to the Wow Effect podcast. I am so excited to have this conversation with you today, and I'm so grateful that you're joining me and taking the time out of your day to do this with me. I want to pass it over to you, and maybe you can kick us off and share a little bit about entrepreneurship and how your journey started in it.
Thanks so much, Mallory, for having me. This is so exciting to be here and to share some of my story. I haven't done that in a while, so
yeah.
That's a loaded question. How did I get into entrepreneurship? I came from the 9-to-5 world. I was in corporate sales, and I kind of got pushed into being an entrepreneur because COVID happened. As a lot of people, I also got laid off from my job. And at the time, I had just joined an entrepreneurship / real estate network. And really it was, I'm going to say it was out of survival. I joined into this network and into entrepreneurship. And it's an interesting journey when you're pushed into it and you have no choice. And I think a lot of the motivation at the time happened because I had no other choice. I'm like, okay, well, we're here now. This is what we're doing. Nobody's hiring. The world is closed. So I had to really look into myself to see where can I, garner that kind of motivation to start. What kind of resources do I have around me? What network exists right now in my, orbit that I can leverage? And I kind of just took it from there. And 6 years later, Here we go. Here we are.
There are so many women who can relate to you. So I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. I know a lot of our members are single mothers who were forced to start a business because they were devastated financially. They had to go out and do something on their own because there's no job that was ever going to help them recover everything that they lost, whether it was through a divorce or an unofficial divorce or whatever that looked like. But I think you're going to be an inspiration to so many of those single moms who are currently rebuilding their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a tough transition in life, and it can be so scary, especially when you don't have somebody and that's why I love what you're doing, because you're shining light onto the people that have done it and that are on the other side of it. Because when you're in it, it's so scary and you feel like you're the only one. Just like when I've had my first baby, I'm like, oh, am I the only person on the planet that's awake at 3 a.m. right now? And it's isolating, it's scary. And yeah, I mean, look, sometimes we need that push. Sometimes we need an event that's unfortunately devastating, dare I say traumatizing. And then getting out of that, you need people like mentors and networks and, even podcasts and things that the type of things that you're doing to provide that hope, oh my gosh, she was in this situation and that was devastating and I can relate and I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. So,
Ilona, did anyone inspire you along your journey?
Oh my goodness. I think there definitely were people in my life that I saw that were women businesses, not overly. I will admit that most people that I knew that were in the entrepreneur space were men, but I did have a select few. But I think really what motivated me is, having autonomy, having freedom, having independence. Because of how my life looked before, it was controlled. It was, I always felt like I needed somebody there. I'm like, how do I do this alone? Yeah. And how do I drive my own ship, right? And it's scary because you're used to having support. You're used to having another income. You're used to having something to fall back on. But that's really what drove me and what motivated me, because look, a woman with no choice, and I've seen it over and over again, she just gets it done. Like there is no, I had 2 little kids. My kids were 3 and 6. All of a sudden I was single and unemployed. I'm like, oh gosh, I have to feed these children. I have to keep a roof over their head. So if that's not motivation, I don't know.
And what does life look like now? What excites you now? What does your day look like?
Oh, it's so interesting because there's, as you know, in the life of an entrepreneur, there's always something next, always something next. We're always building. We're always, and I think I'm at a point in my life right now where leadership and mentorship is really exciting to me because I've done what I've done, and there is no arriving. I feel like life is just an ongoing forever journey, and lifetimes ahead of this one as well. And I think there's phases, and I was in a survival phase at one point, and now that I've built what I have, and garnered the confidence and the network and all those types of things, I'm like, how can I give back? And that's why when you invited me on this podcast, I'm like, okay, yeah, that feels good to give some hope to women that are maybe stuck in that in between stage, because there is another side. So I think leadership, I think mentorship, I think building from alignment, building from a steadier state of being is exciting because it doesn't feel so urgent. So when you can just really just soften that urgency, I feel like things just gravitate towards you based on where you are, based on how aligned you are. And then you get to choose, who do I work with? What do I want to build? How can I contribute? How can I be of service? And you can only get to that space when you're okay. When you're okay mentally and financially and physically, and you're taking care of yourself, then you're overflowing and you're then able to pour into other people. So that's really exciting to me.
You used the word urgency, and in my mind, things came up like messy, chaos, burnout. And I watched these women who are in that phase, and it's kind of like a rite of passage. Like you have to go through that phase if you've never done it before. And some of the stories I hear, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I loved that phase. I loved that season. And I don't know if I have the energy to go back to it. So I enjoy like what you're sharing now is like moving forward from a place of alignment. What are your thoughts around that messy phase?
For me, it was necessary. I think, like I said, because I've been through it, now I can offer some insight as to how to skip maybe a few of those steps. And again, going back to mentorship, that's why it's so important to have someone in your life or a community. I always had a community while I was in this entrepreneur stage, especially in the building of it. So it's from business networks to I was joining masterminds. I invested a lot of money into having that support around me. I also hired business coaches. Then I started having, that network around me as far as friends and associates and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really, really important to have that and to help, ease that uncomfortable feeling of urgency. But also I think you can leverage that, right? Because when someone's chasing you and you're about to, get eaten by a lion, guess what? You're going to run faster all of a sudden, right? So I think leveraging that and using it as momentum and knowing that it's normal, it's okay, and it's temporary. Everything is temporary. So that takes away that fear, I think, and just, I always say, turn that fear into faith. Like, okay, we're going in here. It's not going to last forever. It doesn't need to feel urgent. But when it does feel urgent, maybe use that as motivation versus, oh my gosh, the lion's going to get me,
I love all of that. You're making me think of so one of my favorite guys I love to follow is Craig Rochelle. He talks a lot about leadership. And I wish I'd met you years ago, because there weren't that many women in my life that mentored me either. I think it was all men, and there's nothing wrong with men. I just wish I had known more women. And but Craig talks a lot about transitioning our mind from thinking about trying and replace it with training. And sometimes it's like, if you think a goal is impossible, or you think that you can't do that, well, maybe the version of who you are today can't do that, but how can you train to become that next version of yourself that can do that? Have you evolved as a person along the different seasons or along the journey?
Say that last part one more time.
Yeah, have you evolved like as who you are? Has that changed with the journey? And like, what did that look like?
That's so funny. I just laugh because I'm like, have I evolved? I've evolved multiple times. I mean, the version of me 6 years ago would never, I wouldn't be able to recognize myself. Like, who is that? You know, what happened? I've morphed into all these different versions of myself through all these experiences. And I like what you said, and something that I like to think about too is there's really no failing. I used to think, you know, because I've started multiple businesses, some of them did well, some of them didn't do so well. I had a million ideas on different businesses. I would try to get one going, and then like, and then maybe not, and you know, and then I get some opinions. I talk to my mentors. I would do some research, and so I never think it's a failure. It's all about failing forward and learning from those experiences. And one of my mentors told me that before he landed on the successful business that he's in now, he had 9 failed businesses, and it took him 30 years to figure it out. He's like, oh, not that one. Oh, not that one. Oh, that's so it's, you know, it's not being so attached to what it is you're doing. It's really just continuing to do the thing. And every single time you start something or you want to do something and it doesn't work out, you're like, great, what did I learn from there that I can take to the next venture? What can I learn from there? Who did I meet in that phase of my life that I can now leverage or do some business with or collaborate with? So it's really when I change that mindset, I'm like, oh shoot, because I've you know, built businesses, I've sold my shares in those businesses, I've closed the business, I've lost money in investments. And in that moment, it could feel like a failure, but I'm like, okay, this is bringing me to the next thing. Now what? And I've noticed that in between, I take a little bit of time, if you can, to just recalibrate a little. Okay, because even when I got laid off from my sales position, I was like, what do I do now? Where's the next sales position? Because there's that comfort of like, this is what I know how to do. Now, how do I do that again? So being open and giving yourself space to, you know, just invite new ideas and new conversations. So I find every time I exit a business, I take a little bit of time to be like, okay, now what am I feeling like I can do? How can I leverage what I've learned? How can I leverage my network and kind of take that to the next step?
So good. How do you mentioned exiting some businesses and you know, some failed, and I've got kind of 2 different questions around that. So decide which way you want to run with it. But how do you know when a business has failed, and how do you know when to exit a business?
That's a great question. I don't know if any of my businesses failed per se. I think they ran its course. So I've learned what I've learned. And I feel the same way about relationships, you know. Some people you meet in life and you partner with, or you're friends with, or you marry, you know, and those things all have an expiration date. So doesn't mean they're failed relationships always. Like I have friends from high school and they were never really failed. It's just we grew in different directions. And I think I have that same mindset when it comes to business too, is when I'm not feeling inspired by it anymore, when I'm feeling like I've really added the value that I could. And for me, I'm a fire starter. I'm really good at startups. I'm really good at getting momentum going. I'm really good at enrolling people, big ideas, getting people moving, putting the right butts in the right seats, as I say. And once it becomes operational, that's where it's kind of like, okay, everything's good, steady, everyone's good, great. And that's when either I, you know, change my position in the company, or I step down, or I sell the shares back, maybe to a partner. and then I get excited about something new. And again, some entrepreneurs, they're really great at one business. It keeps inspiring them. They love it. They love the operations piece. They love growing that same business. And there's no right or wrong way. I'm just ready to sink my teeth into the next venture. I'm like, okay, now what? What can I do? What's exciting to me? So once I build a business, doesn't mean I failed because I'm exiting. It just means my time there might have expired.
I think you did a great job describing that. I can totally relate. I was nodding along with everything you're saying because I feel the same way. It's so much fun building a business and putting the right people in the place, and then building it for who's going to come in and take that spot, who's going to take it in and run with it. One of the, you've obviously done a great job of building teams, and whether that's in-house or partnering with, the right lawyers or accountants or whoever needs to be on that team. One of my favorite questions in an interview that I stole from Elon Musk is, tell me your life story.
Oh, okay.
I feel like you learn so much in like what pieces they decide to share with you or choose to share with you. And like it's like insight into their perspective of who they are. But I'm curious what are some, insights that you have around finding the right team or putting the right butts in the right seats, or even I find a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with knowing what questions to ask when they go to partner with an accountant or a lawyer, or like the services that every business needs. Do you have any insights around that comes up for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me personally, it's all about relationships. That's how I've built all of my businesses. And I'm not so concerned on, especially when I'm hiring people, I'm not so concerned about their skill set, because that you can teach. I want to know what kind of person you are. And same thing with, like you said, lawyers, accountants, firms. I mean, a lot of them provide very similar services. And a lot of them are very competitive with pricing or around in the same ballpark and whatnot. But I say to myself, would I bring this person for dinner with my friends? Because in my business, I'm friends with a lot of people that I do business with. And it's so funny because, some people do not agree with that. Keep business separate from personal, and, don't blur that line. And for me, I think that's how I've been able to build so well, because we know each other so intimately, and I know what kind of integrity these people have. Are they trustworthy? I think a lot of the times, if you don't know anything about somebody's personal life, then how do you know what kind of integrity they have in general, right? So I think that relationships is key, and I'm really blessed to have amazing people in my life, and they kind of go with you. They're kind of like, okay, you're doing this now. Okay, how do we structure this? How do I help you? And we help each other. And I really enjoy being able to, like, I travel with my lawyer, for example, right? Like we have a great time, and we meet up with investors and we go for dinners. And, I'm not saying everybody has to be your best friend, but that's really how I choose who I work with. Do we get along? Is there a good energy? Is there an alignment? For me, it's not a volume game. It's not about having the most people in my network. It's really about curating the right fit, so that, the people that I'm spending my time with and the people that are influencing me are the people that I either respect, admire, and appreciate. So that's how I really build my teams and my network.
100%. I prefer your approach, because I think if we're going to spend so much time with all these people, we might want to enjoy their company.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. Ilona, if you were to go back to your younger self, what advice or guidance would you give to your younger self?
My gosh, that's a good question. I think what I would say is, you don't have to prove yourself. I think I spent a lot of my time thinking about what other people's expectations of me are, and then fitting into that mold, this person wants me to be this, or if I, you know, if I act this way, maybe this person will do business with me, or maybe this. So then all of a sudden you're wearing all these masks and you're like, oh, if I show up as this person, or if I just can be this way, and then you lose yourself, right? And the essence of who you are. And then all of a sudden you're surrounded with people that don't know who you are because you've been acting this whole time or trying to fit into their box of, you know, how they expect you to be, or how they expect you to do business, or, you know, oh, I've seen this person interact with that person this way, so maybe if I'm more like that, you know, I'll be accepted, or I'll be appreciated, or they'll want to do business with me. And I think we lose, again, that essence of who we are, which is really our gift. We're also individual. And the truer you are to yourself, the more authentic relationships you can have. Then you don't have to fake it. Then you don't have to perform, and because that's exhausting. And for a long time I did that. I was trying to prove, oh, look what I did. Oh, I can do this, and hustle and grind and do that. And then all of a sudden you're stuck doing things that you don't like to do. You're not inspired. You're dimming your own light. And then you become a shell of yourself. So I think that's what I would say is, you don't need to prove be more of who you are, and the right people will come. It's not about fitting into a box or following a guideline, or, you know, do X, Y, and Z first. The answers are within us, I believe. We have the answers. And the more we can shut up and listen, the further we'll go.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Were there any points where you had to overcome fear, whether it was like fear of success or fear of failure or confidence?
Oh my God. You kidding? Every day for a very, very long time. Again, back to, you know, what we were talking about before, is that survival mode, right? It's like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this? Oh my gosh, you know, this is so scary. And I think a little bit of fear is okay. I think when you're doing something new, it can always be scary. I remember I used to host a online event every month called Level Up. And I think it went on for about 3 years. It was once a month for real estate investors, and I hosted it, and I had it was so fun. It was such a great time. And when I started, I remember the very first meeting that we did, it was on Zoom. I was sweating. I was soaking wet. I was like, I can't do this. I didn't even want to press start the meeting. I was so scared because it was so new. I'm like, who am I? How am I gonna? I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not smarter than the people in the room. Oh my gosh. And I'm like having a panic attack, literally minutes before I'm supposed to host this first episode of this series. And sometimes you just gotta pull through and do it, and then you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't so scary after all, you know. And then you do it, and then you do it again, and then that's how you build your confidence. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things I was scared of. I was scared of raising money. I was like, who's going to trust me? What am I doing? Oh my goodness. So I think when you're especially in the beginning of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of fear. I'm not going to make it. How am I going to make the ends meet? How am I going to turn this into a business? There's so much competition. There are other people that are better than me at like all these thoughts flooding. And again, just going back to center and just centering yourself. And I know who I am. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm resourceful. And I think that's a lot of women that I know. We are so resourceful that we just get it done. It's just, we figure out a way. I mean, there's really no, you don't take no for an answer. You just figure out another way. So there's no real, I wouldn't say there are roadblocks, but nothing that you can't get over, or you just pivot, or, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. Couldn't get clients this way. I'm going to try it this way. So, it's funny how all of the things that we're touching on are relating, because the fear and the lack of confidence and the starting up and all those things tied together. And you're taking me back to when I started the businesses. I'm like, oh my God, that was really scary. And it becomes easier, just like with having kids. The first time around, I was a wreck. It's like, what do I do with this? Who gave me this baby? I'm responsible for this life. Like, what do you mean? Don't do that. I have to take him home. I don't know what I'm doing. And the second one, I'm like, okay, everybody, let's just get me out of this hospital, So yeah, I think by doing things that you're afraid of, that's how you build confidence.
Quick pause for a second. If you're loving conversations like this is exactly the kind of energy we build inside the WOW Collective. It's a community of women growing serious businesses and doing it together. Now let's get back to the conversation.
I think that's a great comparison. And you mentioned a little bit earlier that we never really arrive. We're always working on the next thing or the next 100 things while we're still accomplishing the last 100 things. But today you're living kind of, a life that you dreamed of at some point in your past. And there are so many women who are dreaming of living the life you're living today. So do you mind just shedding a little bit of light on what are some of the dreams that you've accomplished that were at one point a dream that maybe you even forget right now because you're so ambitious working on the next thing?
I mean, just getting out of a 9-to-5 was, a real ambition for me. And even before that, I stayed home with my kids for 7 years. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I was looking after my kids and I loved it. I'm so grateful to this day that I got that time with my kids when they were little. And at that time, my ambition was to be a career woman. Like, oh my gosh, I could do this, I could do that. And that was an ambition. So it's just interesting and now you're just reminding me, because you don't think of these things at this point, but it is nice to go back. So yeah, at one point, my ambition was to have kids. I had kids, I stayed home with them. I'm like, oh, what would it feel like to, be making good money and be in a professional position? And I did that. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at me in this sales position and doing the things and getting dressed up for work. And then, my ambition was, I wish I could own my own time and be my own boss and not have to, get to the office at 8:30 and run around to daycares and picking up and dropping off and wanting more freedom and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, it is interesting to take inventory of kind of what my life is now and all the freedom that I have with my time, with my decisions, with my finances, with my kids. And I feel like it's like a brick by brick, every day you build, every day there's something new. And I think an important thing for us women to realize is back to what you were saying about having men mentors, which by the way, I still have and love. There's nothing that I have against that. In fact, I do still, like I said, have a lot of mentors that are men in my life. And I don't know that I compare myself to them as I used to. I'm like, I have to do this, it has to be this, and wake up every day and do the routine and wake up at 5 a.m. And I wake up at 4:30, go to the gym and come back and do the kids and get make my green smoothie, which is fantastic. If that's how you function at a high level that way, fantastic. But I feel like for women, we have to remember we have cycles, we have emotions, we have things. And so I think I've backed off a little bit on holding myself to a standard that doesn't feel sustainable in order to avoid burnout. So I think I do appreciate the fact that I have that kind of freedom where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stay home and work from home today. I don't think I'm going to meet people. And I'll have, weeks where I'm like out every day and meeting and networking and at the office and, inspiring and motivating my team and doing the things. And sometimes I just don't. And that's okay. And, I think I've learned that those days are also not forever. And you can be in it and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck, I'm lazy, oh my gosh, I'm useless, I'm never getting out of this bed. And that's okay. Just take the day, give yourself some grace. It's okay to have a day or two or three, and then just get back to it. And, find some way to ground yourself in those moments, and then slowly get yourself out, versus having such a rigid schedule, and then feeling bad about yourself when you don't meet those daily goals that you have.
I'm so happy that you went there. There are so many women who, we start the business because we want to experience the freedom. And then we get to the point of freedom, and then we feel guilty for taking a day off or a morning off or whatever that looks like, and transitioning into being okay with not doing the full hustle and grind like that you did in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, I was working till 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
I was working 7 days a week, so there are seasons, right? In that season, I'm like, I have to do this. This is what I need to do. And I was running on adrenaline. I was like, well, there's no choice. I have to do the thing. So here I am doing the thing. And like you said, now, those transitions also take time. It's not like I went overnight from, working 7 days a week to working from home whenever I want. And it can be scary, and it's really just about changing your habits, because now there's no way I am working on a weekend. I'm like, and it takes people around you some time to adjust too, because they're like, hello, it's Saturday. Why aren't you answering the phone? I'm like, not doing that anymore. And then sometimes I would, and if it was urgent. And so you're kind of training yourself and training the people around you, whether it's your team, whether it's your family, whether it's whatever it is. So those transitions take time too.
Yeah. So what helped you get good at setting those boundaries?
That was scary too. Talking about fear, I was scared too, because I was like, well, am I going to lose my business? Are people going to not talk to me? Are they going to talk to somebody else? But I'm like, look at the professionals. There's no lawyers that I know that work on the weekend, and so then I started changing my mindset about, how do people find, or look at people that are constantly available, and what kind of self-respect do they have? What kind of respect for their family and their kids do they have? Because if I'm constantly available and this is my only priority, going back to who do I want to be surrounded by? What kind of people that, I want to have people in my network that do have families and that do prioritize their children, and, that aren't going to drop everything to, I'm not going to leave my kid's swimming class to go back to the office because you need something on a Saturday morning. Sorry. Not sorry. So yeah, it was a change, but you find balance eventually in your lifestyle, because when you're an entrepreneur, your business becomes one of your kids, and you're like, well, this is a priority now, right? So it's just really about balance.
Yeah. So did you have to grieve anything along the way that didn't serve you anymore to get to that point? Maybe relationships or activities, or did everybody level up with you as you level up?
No, I think people did get frustrated, and as they do when they've known you one way and all of a sudden you introduce boundaries, some people get upset with that, because you not having boundaries was serving them. So that's scary, because you're right, it does feel like grieving. It feels like a loss, and you will lose some people, including friendships or, clients or whatever the case is. But the relationship needs to be mutual. So if I can respect what you have going on, you need to respect what I have going on. And I used to be very available. And yeah, when you become a little bit less available, they're like, what happened to Ilona? Where did she go? Why does she think she's too cool now to answer my phone call on a Saturday? And it's, I think new people fill that space too. So it's just shedding. And as you shed old versions of yourself, yeah, sometimes those people that can't rise up with you, then they fall off, and that's okay.
Yeah. I'm glad we went there just to help normalize it. Because I think that's another tough transition that women go through as they, not just women, all business owners or anyone who's leveling up.
And I think going back to, I think a lot of your audience, like you were saying, is maybe going through a separation or a divorce. I experienced that kind of grief in my divorce too, because you had a circle of friends, you thought you had this support system and network, and whether it be, the moms I used to go to the play places with my kids, like I couldn't hang out with them during the day anymore. So then they kind of fell off again, not because anything happened or any hard feelings. Just like, now I'm moving in this direction. This is what my life looks like. And then there is a grieving of those friendships and even that version of you.
I want to switch gears for a second because let's talk about money.
Okay. I love money.
Why do you love money? What are your thoughts around money?
I think we all have a different relationship with money, and that relationship changes and evolves. And I used to have a relationship with money where I was scared of money. I was like, oh my gosh, not enough, this and this, survival, oh my gosh, and over time, I built this relationship of being friendly with money. And I'm like, oh yeah, money, that's my friend. I love money. And really it's just, for me, money is an energetic exchange of value. It just so happens to be printed on a piece of paper, so if there's an exchange of value, then money comes freely. So you're adding value, you're getting paid. You're adding value, you're getting paid. And that comes in so many different forms. But it's interesting that it's an interesting question because, over my life, my relationship to money has changed many times. I mean, a lot of us were raised with different beliefs around money. Money doesn't grow on trees. People that have money are arrogant and selfish and greedy and you're like, money's so bad. What a bad thing that thing is, so you kind of want it, but you don't, but it's scary, but you don't want to be, arrogant if you have it. And some people do live in a place of forever service without receiving money, because that's maybe part of their religious beliefs or culturally or what have you. And it's a good question.
You're bringing up memories for me, because I'm thinking about, in my childhood, we actually didn't talk about money a whole lot. It was like the people who talk about money the most are the people who don't have it. So we didn't really talk about money a lot, but it was when we went off to pick our university courses or whatever, that's when it came up that I remember around, well, if you pick this route in your life, you're capped at this much money. Right. If you pick this route, you're capped at this much money. Like, keep getting rid of the cap, which is interesting. I hadn't thought about that in a while. I was like, at that point, okay, you're going to cap yourself here, cap yourself here, cap yourself here. And it really directed which area all of us chose to go in life.
You actually reminded me of an exercise I did. All these questions are bringing me back. It's so fun. I did an exercise about my relationship to money, and I'm just trying to remember it now. I think, the exercise was, you write a letter to money as if it was a person. And so at the time, so you write two letters. One is where you are today with your relationship. So say, dear money, you're so hard to get. You're constantly running away from me. What the hell? You know what I mean? And I'm looking for you everywhere and you're nowhere to be found. And, every time I get you, you run back away, or I lose you, or, so all these things. And I'm fearful of you. And then there's the new letter of how you would like your relationship with money to look. You're easy to come by. You're always available when I need you. You come from all sorts of different, streams and that kind of thing. So I think money's a lot about a mindset, and a lot of us didn't grow up with the opportunity to cultivate that kind of relationship with money. And therefore, we have a scarcity mindset around money, that it's limited in some sense. And hello, some people like talk to me about the billionaires of the world, that have all this money. And so there's no shortage, right? There's no shortage of money. It's just, what's your relationship with money? How do you feel about it? Because you're the only one really blocking yourself from getting it.
I love that you described that activity. I might borrow it, but I could picture in my mind the different relationships with money with the version of who you were at that point, right? It's probably shifted at every identity shift. The letter to money would have been different at each of those stages.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of us have grown up with the idea that you have to work really hard to earn a lot of money. So then we're working really hard to earn any money, right? And so when you can, especially if that's what you were modeled, like in my family, my dad was really hardworking, worked in the trades, so it's like, okay, and my mom, same thing, worked really hard, and money was always, the belief was you exchange your time for money. It's like, how much time you have? Like you said, I look at jobs, I'm like, okay, what's the highest hourly rate I can make right now? And that would be a cap. Whereas now I'm like, okay, I know if I put an opportunity together, like there's no cap on what that opportunity is. It's like, how much value do you bring? In my business, I do a lot of brokering. I broker all things, opportunities, finance, money, real estate, like all the things. So I'm like, how much value is this transaction worth, right? And then therefore, what's the dollar value? And it's endless. You can broker one transaction and make $1 million. You can broker a transaction and make $1,000. I don't know, right? And same thing with, I know a lot of people that do coaching. There's coaching, and people think that their value is, I don't know, $100 an hour for a coaching session. And I know coaches that charge $5,000 an hour for a coaching session. I don't know, like if it's mutual and the person on the receiving end thinks that the value is there, they will pay. People pay for masterminds, $250,000 for a week to join, and go on whatever, Richard Branson's island, I don't know, so it's really how you value yourself first, and then being able to even receive, right? Like receiving was something that I had to learn. How do you receive money or energy or currency? Because if you're blocked from receiving, forget it. Like you could be adding value all you want, and you're like, oh, I'm too scared to receive or even ask.
Isn't that a good contradiction? I want the money, but I also don't want to receive the money.
I had to learn that.
I don't want it.
Yeah.
A different question. I see this come up quite a bit, where women finally they break past the messy part. They start to generate some income, some revenue that is the highest they've ever made in their life, probably in their family, in their their whole generation. And then I see both sides. They don't know what to do with it. So on one side, they go and they splurge it all, and they spend more than they actually should.
Right.
Forgetting about the whole margin, the profit margin part. But then I see the other side, the complete extreme side, where they hoard everything because they never want to go back to where they came from, and they're so afraid to let go of it. Any guidance for either of those two extremes?
That's a loaded question. I think part of it comes down to is your habits, right? Because if you've never had money, you don't know how to have money. So you squander it. You're like, oh, and there's no safety in having it. So you don't feel, you're like, I have to, it's almost like subconsciously you want to get rid of it, because you're like, I don't know how to hold this. This is a big responsibility to have all this money. Now what? So I think it's really, on either side of those examples that you gave, it's really about exploring new habits how do I invest? Like, how does this version of me that has money behave with money? What do I do with it? Where do I invest it? How do I manage it? At one point in my life, I didn't even look at my bank account because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, forget it. I don't know. I don't know. Somebody needs to deal with this, because I didn't even want to look in there, whether it's a lot or a little or too much or not enough. I'm like, because there was no one to teach me financial literacy. It was like, no, you go to work, you pay your bills, that's it. Like, there was nothing beyond that. Nobody was teaching me how to invest. Nobody was teaching me, save some for a rainy day. Save what? We're barely keeping the lights on. Like, there's no savings. What do you mean save? Invest? Never saving. Invest. What? Like, so those are all skills, right? That you learn, and again, back to the mentorship. Like, go talk to people that have money.
Yeah.
They'll tell you what to do with it. Get some opinions and get someone that has experience. There's so many people that have either a private banker or investment advisors or wealth managers, or have those conversations. There's always a professional that can help. I'm all about hiring people that are smarter than me. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You need to tell me. Like, nobody taught me this. So
Totally.
it's about building habits around, how
This has been so good. Do you have any final thoughts or insights for any of the women listening to this podcast? Anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
My goodness. I think what the first thing that comes to mind is, it's not a race. It's not a race. You don't have to arrive anywhere. Take time for yourself. Pour into yourself. I think as women, we're such caretakers. Whether you have kids or not, I think it's just innate in us to want to care for other people, and which is fantastic. But don't forget to take care of yourself. It's okay. Take a break. Take a bath. Go get a massage. Life is good. The only time it's over is when you're dead, and I'm not trying to get there any faster than I need to. So have good friends. Go have a drink. Go to the gym. Have a nice dinner. Have good friends. Like, it's not all about money and business and work. Like, find a balance, even if it feels impossible. Carve out some time for yourself.
So good. I love this. You've shared so much value today, so I'm so grateful. Again, thank you for joining me on the Wow Effect podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you.
If this conversation sparked something for you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This is the Wow Effect. See you next time.